Am I the asshole to expect my coparent to rehome his kittens due to our son's severe allergy? Long story short, I want my coparent to rehome his 2 kittens because of our son's severe allergy. He doesn't want to and is acting like I'm out of line to ask. Am I the asshole to want him to rehome his kittens? I have full custody. 6 and 3-year-old started in-home visits with bio dad. First visit, our 3-year-old was moderately symptomatic for an allergy to cats. Second visit, 3-year-old ended up in the ER with severe facial swelling and anaphylaxis after only 45 minutes at his father's home. Allergy test confirmed a severe allergy to cats and dogs, with a new medication regimen prescribed. We are sadly bringing our recently adopted puppy back to the rescue because of this allergy. Dad doesn't want to rehome his pets. He got both cats within the last 6 months. He has a 1-bedroom carpeted apartment with cat towers and fabric furniture. He has completely gone distant since his decision, and I can't stop thinking about this whole situation. So am I the asshole to expect him to rehome the 2 kittens? He is knowingly creating a physically dangerous, if not life-threatening environment for your son. You have a medical diagnosis of a severe allergy. Talk to your lawyer about either cutting off all visitation at his home or seeking full custody. Not the asshole. Edit the original poster already has full custody. Not the asshole. I suggest bringing the case back to court to have the expectation of in-home visits revisited. Your ex's home is not safe for your kids. This is not a mild allergy. This required emergency medical intervention. You can't insist that he rehome them, but you can work with court authorities on safety issues created by the home environment being used for home visits. I'm guessing shit like this is why you have full custody, and he has visitation. Not the asshole, but he's making it clear that he prefers the cats to his kids. He needs to understand that there can be no in-home visits with the cats there, so visits will need to be at parks, etc. Also, Dad should change into clean clothes before leaving his home to see the kids. The 3-year-old might react to cat dander on his shirt or pants. Not the asshole, but if your custody was determined by the court, make sure you document it, and make it clear that the father is refusing to make his home a safe environment for his child that has a deadly allergy. Of course, your child can't be in the father's home with the cats there. Even if they are rehomed, it'd have to be professionally cleaned to make it safe for him again. Back to court, he's knowingly endangering your son's life and prioritizing new pets over his son. Not the asshole. I say this as a devout cat lady, and also a severe environmental allergy sufferer. Molds and pollens for me have caused not the asshole. Not remotely. This isn't some mild sneezing or itchiness that can improve with antihistamines and consistent exposure over time, especially if the allergist says so. Anaphylaxis is no joke, and bio dad is putting them in legitimate danger. Would I be devastated to have to rehome the kittens? Sure, although I'd note that at least doing so at 6 months is worlds apart from rehoming a many-year companion for both the cats and the owner. But would it be unquestionably worth it to see my literal children? Yes. This feels more like a control move on his part than anything, to be honest. Not the asshole, but this is a legal matter. Sounds like Dad doesn't actually value your child's life, and that's not a safe place for your children to go. I think you need to speak to your lawyer or a lawyer and push for supervised visits if his home is not safe for the child to visit. That way he can still spend time with them, and your child is not being subjected to the cat fur and dander. If he doesn't want to give up his cats, this is what he will need to do. Second visit, 3-year-old ended up in the ER with severe facial swelling and anaphylaxis after only 45 minutes at his father's home. Not the asshole. But your coparent clearly made a choice. The cats are more important to him than his son's life. Talk to your lawyer about that. If necessary, change the schedule of your coparent so that the bio dad can't have the kids at his home, and go for the money that he has to pay you if he is not having the kids 50/50. I am a lifelong cat person. See my handle. But I have to go with either rehoming the cats and the coparent deep cleaning the apartment to get rid of the dander or no more visits. Cats are wonderful, but you don't risk another human's life for them. Okay, I like to think I'd run back into a burning building to get my cat, but that's my choice. The kid doesn't have a choice here. Not the asshole. Edited for judgment. Time to let the court know what's going on, and that your child going over there is a danger to their life. That is the only way to go from here. Your ex is choosing to put their child in danger, so now it is solely up to you to protect your child and do it with an order from the court. Not the asshole. You're looking out for your children's health, as a parent should. If the allergy is severe enough that your kid ended up in the ER, then they shouldn't be around cats or dogs. I know you mentioned medicine, but from what I've heard, allergies can either get worse or better with exposure. It's not worth the risk of it getting worse. Also, the bio dad is literally choosing his cats over his kids. Think about that and make sure the court knows if you ever end up there for custody support. AITA, I know rehoming pets can be very difficult and hard on people. I would never want to have to get rid of a pet. But in situations like this, I don't think it's unreasonable to expect a parent to rehome their animals to ensure a child doesn't end up back in the hospital or worse. Not the asshole. Children get pets if they have allergies. Not the asshole. The word coparent is doing some very heavy lifting with this guy. No more visitation for the father. I think you need to file for full custody. He knows his child is allergic and still went and got kittens. After the original poster's answers, clear not the asshole due to complete inflexibility from the coparent regarding any compromise or alternatives. More information needed. How often does he have home visits and how long for? Would it be possible to have visitation outside the home rather than have to rehome the pets? Not the asshole. Talk to your attorney and provide them with the medical information to get visits stopped due to this. He sounds very selfish and thinks more of his kittens than his child. Anaphylaxis is very dangerous. Your child does not need pumping full of drugs to visit his father. If you have full custody, just arrange that their meeting with their dad be elsewhere from his home. Never allow the meetings at his home. Parks, restaurants, zoos, etc. Not the asshole. Your coparent should put his 3-year-old above his cats. I know how hard that can be because pets become part of the family, but at the end of the day, he is choosing to put his child into a potentially life-threatening situation. Seek legal advice. I would go back to court and just request coparent meets your child outdoors for his visit until he goes, and a deep clean is done due to danger to your child's life. Not the asshole, but there's another solution. Visitation that's not at his house. He can take them for short periods in public places. If he won't agree to that, you'll have to go back to court for it. No, you are not being unreasonable, but that excuse for a father most certainly is the a-hole. That is his child's life, or doesn't he see that his child could die from anaphylaxis? Go to court and get full custody of your children. Don't allow this to happen. I had the same thing happen to me after I had my tonsils out at age 23. I had to get rid of my cat. Not the asshole. If his home is actively dangerous to his child, you need to revisit the custody and child support arrangements. Not the asshole. At this point, if it could kill your son, he either needs to rehome the cats or the home visits, and depending on if kiddo reacts to the hairs on his clothes when visiting away from his home in-person visits. The health of the child is more important than him getting to have his cake, keep the cats, and eat it to keep the home visits, even though it's a risk to the child's life. I'm guessing DCYF CPS isn't involved. This is a court-ordered civil arrangement. Not the asshole at all, but you will probably have to go back to court to resolve this issue in your child's best interests. Not the asshole. If the home is a serious risk to his son's life and he refuses to remove that risk, he shouldn't be permitted to have your son. Ever. Not the asshole. Sounds like he either gives up in-home visits or the cats and gets the apartment deep clean to have a safe environment for his child. Speak with your lawyer. Just here to offer understanding. My coparent is a cat hoarder. Our daughter seems to have a dermal reaction while at his house. After asking more questions about her bed, I learned that he keeps a litter box in her tiny room and allows his 10 cats free range of her room and bed, and does not clean the fur up. She said it's gross, and it is. I asked very non-confrontationally that he keep the cats out of her room, for the above reasons. He won't do anything, and the city won't enforce the animal code. His misguided priorities are part of why we aren't together, but I thought he'd at least adjust for her. But no. It's only ever going to be about him and what he wants. And what he wants is cats, cats, and more cats. Your ex is making his choice, and as moms it's heartbreaking to see our kids not be the priority. Sorry this is there and your experience right now. It's not just something to politely ask. It's worth revisiting the custody agreement over, as either he makes his home safe for the kid or he shouldn't even have visitation. He can come over for supervised visits at best, if this is so hard to understand. Not the asshole. I would do almost anything to not rehome my pet, but if my kid was that allergic to it, I would be rehoming it so quickly and responsibly, of course. It's really a choice between them keeping their cats or seeing their son, because if I were in your position, I'd be going back to court to amend the custody agreement so my kid wasn't in danger at their home. Not the asshole. This isn't just sniffles and a crummy time, this is life-threatening. That your coparent is failing to grasp that, or worse, choosing to ignore that is downright abusive. You need to bring your child's diagnosis and any proof that your ex is refusing to rehome the cats to your lawyer and the courts. His distancing leads me to believe that you'd find yourself nagging and nagging, having him tell you he rehomed them, and then get a call from the hospital during his custody time. A reaction that's severe in that short of time will not be taken lightly by the courts, and they will either require him to remove the animals and provide proof, or have him lose any custody of both children, as the non-allergic child would carry dander home on clothes and body. NTA, he is definitely keeping them on purpose so he doesn't have to see the kids. I'm sorry you have to deal with such a selfish person. Not the asshole. It's medically necessary if he wants to see his kids. If he refuses, though, then you need to go back to court. No rehoming, no visitation. I'm glad you have full custody. However, even if he rehouses the cats, your kids still wouldn't be able to visit at his home. He would have to get a professional cleaner to get rid of all of the cat dander that's been building up for 6 months. He lives in a 1-bedroom, carpeted apartment with cat trees, which are also usually carpeted. So visitations might require him to shower, change clothing, and meet open air somewhere. No house visits because the dander and fur will always be on him. Fur is like glitter, it's always there and never truly goes away. I do have some questions, though. You adopted a puppy, and your kid didn't have any reactions to them. I'm just surprised that the kittens were the catalyst, and not the puppy they lived with. Was your puppy not acclimated to the house yet? Or a hypoallergenic breed? Just wondering. Is your kid allergic to dander, fur, and/or saliva? Honestly, though, it sounds like he just doesn't care to be in his kids' lives. He only has them once a week, but won't do anything to help facilitate them. I would either lessen it more or just collect child support to stop putting your kids through this. I have a feeling your kids are starting to understand who their father is. I hope you consider having them in therapy or some sort of group. Adding to those saying go back to court. Bring all the hospital paperwork with you. Allergic reactions usually get worse with issues like this, bee stings, shellfish, etc. This is severe. 100 not the asshole. Nothing, it's even if your coparent got rid of the cats, it still isn't safe for your son to visit that house for probably months or even years. That cat down there can be stuck and embedded in the carpets, and the furniture and all kinds of places. Your coparent would have to find a new apartment, and get new furniture in my opinion before your child is safe to go over there. Honestly, this is a blessing. You try to facilitate this relationship, and he is refusing to do his part. You could have been leading your children to believe they had become a priority to this man for years before there was a conflict, and he chose himself over his kids. Now you know for certain, straight away, that he has no interest in parenting. He didn't react to your dogs. Not the asshole. I live with cats I'm mildly allergic to, but you don't mess around with anaphylaxis. People can and do die. He can't have the allergic kid around while he's got the cats. How does he even think that'll work? They'll just go to the ER every time. Even if you use an EpiPen, you still need emergency medical treatment. Not the asshole. While it is understandable to love our pets, a child in this situation is certainly more important. I recall when I had my daughter, she was very allergic to our cat. I had this cat for many years and didn't give a thought to rehoming her. I loved this cat and she was awesome, but nothing was more important than my child. Of course, I made sure she went to a loving home and even had the chance to visit with her a year later. She was still the sweetest thing and spoiled rotten. Lol, dad is being a jerk, not a very good father IMO. Not the asshole. I was a kid with this severe level of allergy. My stepmother would not rehome her cat. I was just expected to take copious amounts of medication every weekend. It never worked to the point of an enjoyable life. The lasting symptoms wouldn't just go away when I went back to my own home on Monday either. I'd still be ill until roughly Wednesday every week. Then by Friday night, it was back to the house with the cat, and so the cycle continued. Genuinely a brutal way to live life. I can't express how heavy my chest was every day. My eyes constantly burned. I was overly tired every minute of the day. Schoolwork suffered. I could feel the medication making me even more tired. My throat burned. I needed an inhaler. My skin burned. I developed severe eczema, of which I still have the scars 20 years later. I had to sit outside a lot, rain, hail, or snow. Wouldn't wish it on anyone, never mind a kid.